NBC 10 News starts now.
20 minutes of nonstop news begins with all hands on deck to find 4 missing young men in Bucks County. Police in at least 3 different counties now have active searches in several locations right now to try and find these men. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Jacqueline London. Within the last 30 minutes, NBC 10 has learned police are treating this as a criminal investigation, and they say they're making great progress. NBC 10's Lauren Make is live in Solebury Township, Bucks County, where police just gave an update on their investigation.
Lauren, police trying to piece together whether these 4 cases are in fact connected.
And Jim and Jacqueline, the district attorney just in the past hour describing this investigation as hot, saying sometimes these cases have a tendency to peter out. Things get cold. Not in this case. This case is very active. They are, as you mentioned, searching multiple areas. But at this point, investigators not releasing a whole lot about what they're finding as this mystery deepens. In Bucks County, the road through this wooded area off 202 blocked by the search. An all-terrain vehicle helped them get around as they search for answers in the disappearance of 4 young men.
In a case of this scope and magnitude, it's all hands on deck.
Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub saying the focus of the investigation is to figure out where they are. 19-year-old Jimmy Patrick, 19-year-old Dean Finocchiaro, 22-year-old Mark Sturgis, and 21-year-old Tom Mio. The DA says they're working to confirm their relationship, though friends and family say Mio and Sturgis are good friends. Loved ones gathered not far from the search scene, declining to comment and watching for news on the missing. The search for clues stretching along 202, with the dog on the job here, and investigators also at a site in Bensalem today. Questions remaining about the disappearance of the 4 young men and whether foul play is involved.
Some investigations go on until they peter out, and there's just we're sort of grasping at straws. We're about as far from that as 0 is to 100. This investigation, the leads are incredibly hot. They're very fruitful. We're making great progress, but there is so much more work to do.
10 News starts now.
Right now at 11, NBC 10 has uncovered new developments in the search for these 4 missing men.
Tonight, we've learned that this man, Cosmo DiNardo, is under arrest on an unrelated charge. He has not been named a suspect in this case, but we do know that his family owns several properties where police have been searching for the last 2 days.
Skyforce 10 was over one of those properties a short time ago. This is in Solebury Township, right off Route 202. Investigators just left that scene in the last 30 minutes.
NBC 10's Denise Nakano is also out there tonight. She's joining us live with new details on this fast-changing investigation. Denise?
Jim and Jacqueline, I just spoke with investigators. They wrapped up for the night just a few blocks away from here. They'll be back tomorrow morning. They are making progress with a collection of evidence. This as investigators are honing in on one man they took into custody on an unrelated gun charge. The search for 4 missing young men from Bucks County centered on a farm in Solebury Township.
It's very disturbing.
Skyforce 10 overhead as investigators worked into the evening under canopies and tents, setting down police markers. They looked for evidence of the 4 young men who disappeared within days of each other this past week. Family members stayed within range of the search that utilized heavy machinery in a backfield. Investigators are looking for any sign that will bring them closer to finding 19-year-old Jimmy Patrick, 18-year-old Dean Finocchiaro, 22-year-old Mark Sturgis, and 21-year-old Tom Mio. The investigation focused on a 50-plus acre farm on Route 202 in New Hope.
We're getting a lot of strong indications that this is where we need to focus the majority of our resources.
It's one of 3 properties searched in the past 2 days belonging to the DiNardo family. Police charging 20-year-old Cosmo DiNardo on unrelated gun charges and looking into his possible connection to the disappearance of all 4 men. Police searched a DiNardo family home on Aquatong Road in Solebury on Sunday, where Mark Sturgis's car was found, and a home in Bensalem earlier today where Cosmo DiNardo lives. One of his neighbors who asked she not be on camera says the DiNardos are like family.
It's been very difficult. As I mentioned earlier, I've been crying all day.
Friends of Dean Finocchiaro spoke to NBC 10 about their missing friend and concerns for his safety.
He's a really funny kid. Everyone loves him. He's always got a good spirit. We know that our friend's not safe, so that's all we're worried about.
And I spoke with Mark Sturgis's father tonight. He says the family is really struggling and that this is the most traumatic thing he's ever been involved with in his life. The district attorney of Bucks County will return tomorrow to give a briefing at 11 o'clock in the morning. Live in Solebury Township, I'm Denise Nakano, NBC 10 News.
So here's a look at how this mystery started to unfold more than 5 days ago. Jimmy Patrick was first reported missing on Wednesday. Just 2 days later, Mark Sturgis, Tom Mio, and Dean Finocchiaro also disappeared. By Sunday, police were searching that property near Route 202 in Solebury Township. And today, that investigation spread to the other property in Bensalem. Count on NBC 10 to get more answers and bring them to you as this mystery unfolds. Sign up for breaking news alerts on the NBC 10 app and wake up with the morning team at 4:30 for any developments overnight.
NBC 10 News starts now.
Right now at 11, out of jail just hours after police called Cosmo DiNardo a person of interest in the disappearance of 4 young men. He's been released. Good evening. I'm Jacqueline London.
And I'm Jim Rosenfield. NBC 10 learned it was DiNardo's father who posted $100,000 for his bail. Tonight, police in Bucks County still face an uphill battle in their investigation surrounding these missing men. They have no suspects and a lot of land left to search.
Skyforce 10 was over this property in Solebury Township today as investigators brought in more equipment and more manpower to scour 90 acres of land. NBC 10's Denise Nakano is live there tonight with our continuing coverage. Denise, investigators have searched that property for 2 straight days now.
And investigators ended their search a little earlier tonight than yesterday at about 8:30 and covered a vast area. They tracked about 10 to 15 walking miles in their search for evidence. This as the person of interest now out of jail. Just hours after the Bucks County District Attorney announced this about Cosmo DiNardo.
He is a person of interest.
The 20-year-old left the Bucks County Jail a free man around 6 p.m. DiNardo posted bail after he was rearrested and booked on an unrelated gun charge Monday.
Feel real bad for the families.
Onlookers watched as investigators scoured the grounds of the massive farmland owned by Cosmo DiNardo's parents in Solebury Township, moving, digging, and sifting for evidence for a second day. 40 Montgomery County Police Academy cadets and cadaver dogs helped in today's search, with evidence collected sent off for testing at local labs. Investigators describing this crime scene as the largest they've ever had to work.
Take the biggest one you've ever seen and multiply it by 1,000,000. And that's what we're dealing with here. It's not just this single property. We have people combing the entire county.
The family of the 4 missing men gathered near the same grounds where investigators worked another grueling day combing through fields. Sources say each of the missing men were seen with DiNardo before they disappeared, although he is not considered a suspect in the case. Neighbors of the DiNardo family in Bensalem describe Cosmo and his family as good people.
Cosmo runs over, grabs the shovel, and digs the hole for me. He says, no, I'll do that for you. That's the kind of guy he was.
The investigation is far from over as crews look ahead to a 3rd day of searching.
We're committed to see this through all the way to the end, regardless of what that may be.
And Jacqueline and Jim, we can tell there are major developments happening down here because the past few nights there has not been this kind of activity. Again, we have those live pictures from Skyforce 10, which shows you the area they've zeroed in on this family farm. They've set up tents. They've been sifting through the dirt. They've been digging deep into the ground. And in just about an hour from now, we expect to hear again from the district attorney with at least a little bit more information about what they've found. Person of interest Cosmo DiNardo is back in custody and held on $5 million bail, less than a full day after his release. The new stolen car charge based on detectives saying DiNardo had one of the missing men's cars on his family's property and tried to sell it for $500. In court, prosecutors also revealed DiNardo was diagnosed schizophrenic. They claim he's a danger to himself and others. Emotions are running high at the search scene, at one point escalating into a fight after one relative of a missing man began to speak with a reporter. Neighbors don't know how they're holding up.
I really feel horrible for all the family.
The district attorney says they are going to find something.
I'm very encouraged by that, at the least, that we're going to get some finality.
Tonight, trucks were in place to move evidence on a farm owned by DiNardo's parents. Retired FBI Special Agent J.J. Claver tells us teams are likely using dogs, ground-penetrating radar, and excavators to search for instruments of a crime and human remains.
They're going to be using some both sophisticated technologies and some kind of old-school detective work. You know, they're going to be sifting through, digging with shovels. They'll grit out the whole area.
And NBC 10 can confirm that DiNardo has a new lawyer. His parents have also retained legal counsel who says they are cooperating with law enforcement as much as they can. We're live in Solebury Township. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
All right, Drew, and our team coverage continues now with NBC 10's Brandon Hudson. He's outside one of the DiNardo's other properties in Bensalem.
Brandon, you've been taking a closer look at Cosmo DiNardo's past.
Jacqueline and Jim, Cosmo DiNardo's past reveals quite a contrast to the 20-year-old who is now facing gun and stolen car charges. First off, he grew up in a neighborhood where some of these homes are close to $500,000. He graduated from a Catholic private college prep school 2 years ago, had ambitious goals for college, and was a member of his community. Jordans, gun clips, and ammo shown in pictures shared on Cosmo DiNardo's Flickr account, a social media photo sharing site. Police have not said if there is a connection between the gun paraphernalia and DiNardo's gun charges. NBC 10 learned DiNardo is the heir to a massive 68-acre farm in Bucks County. Property records show the property is worth more than $5 million. His parents will also pass down other real estate properties in Bucks and Montgomery counties. Growing up in Bensalem, DiNardo graduated from Holy Ghost Preparatory School in 2015. The all-boys Catholic school is ranked one of the top private high schools in Pennsylvania. We found after graduation he went to Arcadia College briefly. In an article posted on the college's website, DiNardo, a then biology major, talked about studying abroad. Those dreams are short-lived as he's now the center of a missing men case that has gripped Bensalem.
It's scary. I have little kids. I'm a member of this community, and it's scary.
That's pretty much my whole news feed now. It's just everything I see on social media, on like Facebook, Snapchat, different things like that.
We spoke to Bensalem's mayor tonight off camera. He did confirm that DiNardo was a member of Bensalem's Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board in 2016, but he quit. Live in Bensalem, I'm Brandon Hudson, NBC 10 News.
NBC 10 Breaking News.
I'm Jim Rosenfield along with Jacqueline London with breaking news in the search for those 4 missing men in Bucks County.
The district attorney is speaking right now, revealing what the DA's office calls a major development in this case. Let's listen in.
We have found human remains in an approximately 12.5-foot deep common grave that we have painstakingly dug with a lot of care so as not to damage any potential evidence. And I'm very, very sad to say that we can now identify Dean Finocchiaro, 19 years old, of Middletown, as one of the people that was found buried in that grave.
NBC 10 Breaking News.
That breaking news, police make a grim discovery in the search for 4 missing men in Bucks County. We learned overnight that the remains of 19-year-old Dean Finocchiaro were uncovered on a farm in Solebury Township, Bucks County. Investigators say remains were found buried underground more than 12 feet down, and they're still searching for signs of the other 3 men.
Here's what we know right now. Investigators revealed they are making progress today as they dig in the dust and heat, trying to identify human remains found at the farm. They've already ID'd 1 set of remains as that of 19-year-old Dean Finocchiaro, but other human remains have not been publicly identified. The discoveries are being made in a 12-foot deep hole that is getting deeper by the minute. The DA isn't saying yet exactly what was involved in this murder mystery. Cosmo DiNardo is being held on $5 million bail. He is officially called a person of interest. DiNardo's parents own the farm where those remains are being dug up.
An NBC 10 team of reporters is dedicated to this major event that's making national headlines, from the search in Solebury Township to the grand jury proceedings in Doylestown and any possible connection between Cosmo DiNardo and the 4 men.
Deanna, the district attorney had been having news conferences at 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day, except today. He canceled that 3 o'clock news conference.
He did, and a spokesperson says that there is just a lot going on in this case, and it is unclear if that news conference will be scheduled for the rest of the day or if he will continue those 11 a.m. briefings we've been bringing you live here on NBC 10. We can tell you that we have learned that Cosmo DiNardo attended briefly a college in Montgomery County in Cheltenham Township. He was there for the fall semester of 2015, and when he tried to come back in 2016, the university told him he was not allowed on campus.
They're combing through vast fields and buildings. They're down 12 foot deep in a hole that's getting deeper by the minute.
The hole is so deep and unstable, the district attorney says safety experts have to shore it up so crime scene and evidence workers can continue the hunt and recovery for human remains.
They're tenderly, painstakingly, reverentially recovering the remains of people that they do not even know.
The DA says that hole was recently dug, and he says the remains found so far contain those of 19-year-old Dean Finocchiaro of Langhorne. The families of 3 other missing men are waiting for word.
They're exhibiting great grace and poise. I pray I never have to be in this situation, but if I ever were, they've really been a model of grace and poise.
All 4 went missing sometime between Wednesday and Friday of last week. Cosmo DiNardo was named a person of interest in the case. His parents own the farm where sources say forensic evidence that led them to believe a violent crime occurred has been found since as early as Monday. Now, we can tell you that investigators have utilized cell phone records. They've also used mobile license plate readers to be able to try and pinpoint where those 4 were last seen. And we're told that they were all within this area of the DiNardo family farm between Wednesday and Friday, though investigators are still not talking about a direct link between all 4 of these men and their person of interest in the case. That is the very latest. Reporting live in Solebury Township, Deanna Durante, NBC 10 News.
An unexpected confession.
He admitted to being part of or actually committing the murder.
And now a new theory on why these 4 men were killed.
It was tough when he was taken from us.
But this mystery is far from solved as families wait for their loved ones to be found and identified.
They're tenderly, painstakingly, reverentially recovering the remains of people that they do not even know.
And that painstaking recovery continues at this hour. Our cameras spotted more people going in and out of that farm in Solebury Township tonight, where we've now learned all 4 missing men were killed.
It's one of many revelations in this case today, and they tell a tale of money, drugs, and murder.
It all started with Cosmo DiNardo's confession. According to his attorney, DiNardo admitted to participating in all 4 murders.
Tonight, NBC 10 has also learned from a source close to the investigation that some of the victims were shot and some of them were burned. And investigators are looking into the possibility that DiNardo had help. But the biggest revelation of all could explain why these murders happened.
NBC 10 continues to cover every angle of this story. We've put together a full timeline of events and how friends and neighbors are responding to this new information.
But let's begin with NBC 10's Brandon Hudson live at the center of this investigation in Solebury Township. Brandon, the big question people still have is why? What have we learned about a possible motive?
Well, Jacqueline, Jim, this may all boil down to money and drugs. DiNardo reportedly felt cheated during 3 drug transactions with the missing men, and that led to the ultimate power move. He killed them. Some shot, some burned, and he left investigators to pick up the pieces.
Shackled and expressionless in his orange jumpsuit, Cosmo DiNardo showed a bit of remorse after his shocking confession. DiNardo lowered his head as he stepped into a police van at the Bucks County Courthouse. His apology came moments after he told investigators he killed Tom Mayo, Mark Sturgis, Dean Finocchiaro, and Jimmy Patrick. A dramatic climax to a 5-day investigation that gripped a sleepy town in Bucks County. The 20-year-old's attorney told us why his client came clean.
In favor of that, the Commonwealth will not be seeking the death penalty.
A source close to the investigation told NBC 10 DiNardo shot more than 1 man, burned at least 2 of them, and buried all of them on his parents' farm. A person with first-hand knowledge of the confession told the Associated Press DiNardo shot the men because he felt cheated or threatened during 3 drug transactions. That person went on to say DiNardo sold thousands of dollars of marijuana as well as handguns to area residents.
He was a very nice, very polite young man. Nothing what you see on TV now. Doesn't even look like him.
Moments after the confession, we spoke to a woman who served with DiNardo on Ben Salem's Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board last year. She didn't want to reveal her identity, but said after getting involved, he mysteriously quit months later.
He just up and left.
No reason, no.
No reason whatsoever.
Is that heartbreaking for you?
Yes, it is. It is, because if he needed help, he could have gotten it from any one of us members.
The DA hasn't commented on the money or drug motive. He is expected to talk tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Live in Soulberry Township, I'm Brandon Hudson, NBC 10 News.
And our team coverage continues now with NBC 10's Drew Smith. Drew's crew's still hard at work tonight, searching that farm for more evidence, trying to get the victims' families some answers.
Yeah, we saw how determined these crews were last night, working through the night, and they are still out there. And even today, in tough conditions, they want to make sure they can find as much evidence as well as human remains as possible. In heavy rain, excavators were on the move at the 90-acre farm owned by Cosmo DiNardo's parents. Work still going strong after DiNardo's lawyer said the 20-year-old confessed.
I didn't really think that was going to happen. That's insane.
Tonight, a source close to the investigation tells NBC 10 forensic evidence was found in a barn and the 12-foot common grave where 3 bodies were buried. The source says DiNardo told police where to find the 4th body as workers loaded up on fresh rain boots and gear to keep the tents above the dig sites dry. There still aren't positive identifications on 3 of the 4 missing men. Even during periods of heavy rain tonight, excavation continued up at the site just beyond this hill. Reaction to the news of the confession was muted here at the scene, but people did bring down some flowers for the families.
We just kept hoping and praying.
Church leaders have reached out to comfort these grief-stricken families.
I went to visit at the house and they weren't there because they were there and I've called on the phone a few times.
Many of them are still here on this farm, waiting.
Can't believe it had to happen this way.
And we just got a statement from the stepmother of one of the missing men, Mark Sturgis. I'm going to read you part of it. She says the loss of him is so indescribable. His father will spend the rest of his life along with myself to make sure Mark gets justice. We're live in Soulberry Township. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
The investigation into the Bucks County murder mystery expanded into Philadelphia overnight, and police questioned another person in connection to the case. In the past few minutes, we've learned police do have a second person of interest in the case. Sources tell us that person has previous arrests that include drugs and theft, and we know that Bucks County detectives are on the scene of a new location in Montgomery County that is tied to the case. This is all coming from NBC 10's Deanna Durante, who is on the scene there.
Yesterday, Cosmo DiNardo's attorney says that DiNardo confessed to participating in the murders of 4 young men who went missing last week. That left open the possibility that someone else may have been involved. Police went to this house in Philadelphia's Oxford Circle neighborhood overnight, and investigators questioned someone in connection to the Bucks County case. We are working to get confirmation on the name of that person and his connection to DiNardo.
This major story making national headlines has taken several twists and turns since Cosmo DiNardo confessed to police nearly 24 hours ago. The final body has been found. The remains of Jimmy Taro Patrick were recovered from a separate location on the Soulberry Township farm. So now all 4 victims have been identified. Authorities say all of them were shot. The murder weapons used in those killings have been recovered. Today, the investigation focused on 2 locations: Doylestown, where both suspects were arraigned within the last hour, and Upper Dublin, Montgomery County, where officers searched the home of the second suspect earlier today. We have a team of reporters in place at each site following every development.
We know that all of these victims know each other. We know that they all know Cosmo DiNardo at this point, and that he is the one that prosecutors say lured them to that farm. Investigators say at this point they've done what they could to bring these victims home to their families.
We're here to accomplish 2 goals, and that was to bring these young men home to their loved ones who have done nothing wrong, have done nothing to deserve this horrible, unspeakable tragedy that has been beset upon them. And we're here to seek justice for them.
Those families waited for nearly a week as police, the FBI, and others dug down deep on a farm in Soulberry Township.
We did find 3 of those young men buried deep within the ground under an old oil tank that was converted into a cooker about 12.5 feet down.
Those men were shot on Friday, according to prosecutors who say they were lured to the farm under the guise of buying drugs. Instead, they were shot by Cosmo DiNardo. and his cousin, Sean Kratz. One victim run over by a backhoe. Another had been shot as he tried to run away. After the killings, the bodies were doused with gasoline and set on fire, then dropped in the ground.
We were able to secure the 2 weapons that we allege were used in these 4 murders so that they can never be used to hurt or kill anyone ever again.
But the first killed was the last to be found. The DA says DiNardo murdered Jimmy Patrick Wednesday. His remains were hidden on another grave on this 90-acre property. The remains, the weapons, and the DiNardo's alleged accomplice were all given up to police after the 20-year-old made a plea deal, one that would spare him from the death penalty.
We'd still be looking for Jimmy Patrick had we not made this agreement.
Now, that plea deal does not extend to the other accomplice in this case. You'll recall for days, prosecutors asked for those with information to come forward. And this man that DiNardo calls his cousin sat silent, we've learned, and investigators say he even stashed some of the weapons in this case. Reporting live in Doylestown, Deanna Durante, NBC 10 News.
And within the past couple of hours, a judge arraigned Cosmo DiNardo and Sean Kratz, both making their appearances through video conference. NBC 10's Randy Gyllenhaal continues our live team coverage from the courthouse tonight. Randy?
And Jim, it's the nature of these allegations, drugs, guns, murder, and cover-up, that caused Judge Maggie Snow to call both these suspects a danger to the community. And tonight, both men will remain behind bars. Inside this Bucks County courtroom, 2 young men accused of a horrific string of murders and cover-ups were denied any chance at bail. Attorneys say Cosmo DiNardo has confessed to a role in the killings. His life will likely be spared, but his cousin and alleged co-conspirator Sean Kratz could still face the death penalty.
There's an expectation that Mr. DiNardo will be following through with any deals that have been made. There's still discussions about Mr. Kratz.
In court, DiNardo was wearing this same orange jumpsuit. He didn't speak much, but Sean Kratz was much more talkative, telling the judge he worked as a tile installer, saying he spent his whole life living in Northeast Philly. And notably, he also said he was shot in the leg 3 months ago, worried about his injury behind bars. Prosecutors say both men are clearly dangerous.
Both Mr. DiNardo and Mr. Kratz committing multiple murders over a week-long period. Bail was appropriately set at 0.
Just a week after these killings, prosecutors say the families of the victims will soon see justice.
What they've had to do sitting through 96 painstaking hours at a site where, weather conditions were awful at times, to see whether their loved ones were in the ground there has been an overwhelming experience.
And a final note from inside the courtroom, the judge decided to house both of these men in separate jails, in separate prisons, in separate counties, so that they would not be able to interact with each other. Meantime, the next court date for both of them, July 31st. Live in Bucks County, Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 10 News.
And the name Cosmo DiNardo has been associated with this case since Monday.
But the name Sean Kratz didn't appear until today. Now we're learning more about the man neighbors describe as both charming and troubled. NBC 10's Drew Smith joins us now with the new details.
Jacqueline and Jim, I have a stack of court documents here which show that Sean Kratz was out on bail on a pair of burglary cases at the time of these new murder charges. But neighbors who've interacted with him here in the northeast part of the city say he was a nightmare to deal with up until the point he got shot 6 times just a few months ago, a couple blocks away. When detectives showed up last night, Amanda Stankwitz was surprised to hear the name Sean Kratz.
They were very urgent, we gotta find him.
She thought he might have died after a recent shooting, but before that, he was always around.
And that's how he would sort of sneak around here.
She'd end up calling the cops on him, and she wasn't the only one.
He stole the lawn equipment, and then it started coming out after that there were other things missing, like the girlfriend's dog.
Only a dog came to the door at the home where Kratz says he grew up. Later, there was a note saying there will be no comment here. Investigators also searched another property in Montgomery County connected to Kratz. Court records say in June 2016, a camera caught him stealing from a shed.
I think one crime leads to another one,
Then, in February of this year, investigators say he went after the woman who turned him in, stealing her jewelry. Another woman who didn't want her face on TV went to Northeast High School with Kratz. She says on the outside, he was charming.
I really didn't know that he was capable of killing people at all, just because of the person he was. He was actually kind.
Stankwitz agrees that he had a way with people, but it was his behavior, she says, that showed what he was capable of.
Oh God, he should have been in jail like a long time ago.